Eli Drake.
He's a shy guy, isn't he?
Oh, very shy. Let me talk to you.
Eli wants everyone's undivided attention. Sanjay, are you paying attention?
Yeah, absolutely.
Put your phone down.
Let me talk to you.
There it is.
California, my home of the gold rush. And as a matter of fact, tonight, that's exactly what you're going to get. Because here I stand, feeling a little naked without my title. Don't get any ideas. Calm down, dummies. Huh? 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 Shut up, dummies. I'm talking now. I said I stand here and I'm looking for that Impact World title. There is one man who's deserving of wearing that. There's one man standing here that should be the only recognized world champion. And what's his name? With everybody saying, Eli Drake. But meanwhile, here we are, and we got A Double, the greatest, shut up, dummy. The greatest man that's ever lived. And so he comes out eating bananas. He comes out collecting his titles. He looks like half these goofs standing in the crowd here. But you got to understand, if you go in the wild right now, who do you think runs it? You think a vegan? You think some little caterpillars running the jungle? No, it's a carnivore. It's a carnivore like Eli Drake. You know what? I hear you all saying my name with me. That's cool and all. But don't think you're cool just because you're saying my name, right? Because when I look out here, I see you as cute as you are, mama. Dummy, yeah. I see you. I say, dummy, yeah.
Yeah.
I see you. I say, dummy, yeah. And definitely when I look at this guy, I say, dummy, yeah. Matter of fact, when I say dummy, you say yeah. Dummy, yeah. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to me.
He's talking to himself.
Because you don't understand. You don't understand. This thing right here, nobody can stop this. I can't stop it. Shut up, dummy, I'll say it. I can't stop the gravy train. I can't stop being the defiant one. And most of all, more importantly than anything, I can't stop being Eli Drake. Which means nobody else can be, and that's not an insult. That. Quiet down, dummies. It's just a fact of life.
Dummy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 106 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. It is Thursday, May 17, 2018. We're a day out from May 18, and then Saturday is May 19. May 19 has a historical significance for wrestling fans out there. Maybe the Ruthless Aggression era fans will be knowing what I'm talking about. But welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Josh. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at NotoriousJoshy. I'm joined, as always, by the Clown Prince himself, Adam Daley. Adam Daley 13. What's good, my brother?
Josh, what it is this week? Hey, we got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about this week, don't we?
Yeah, man. We got All In to talk about at the end of the show. Let's talk a little about that. Kind of the cool part about hustling and just what it means for that independent scene. We're going to talk about Money in the Bank. That's coming up a month from today, actually. 30 days. So we got 4 more Raws and SmackDowns to get through. WWE just wrapped up their television side of this European tour. We'll talk a little bit about that. You played yourself. So we got our fun regular features that we have here on the show. We got some stuff to talk about Gotham at the end of the show as well. Some cool entertainment stuff to get you ready for the weekend. And more importantly, though, this week, with it being Mental Health Awareness Month, I wanted to spend some time and talk a little bit about that and get some inspiration for this upcoming documentary that's coming out for Mauro Ranallo called Bipolar Rock and Roller. That's going to be on Showtime, I think, sometime in June. So
end of May, I believe.
End of May. Okay, cool. End of May. Either way, this is a very cool documentary, and it's very timely as well. And there's been times throughout this podcast, whether me and Al were doing the show together or if I was by myself, I took some time to talk about some personal issues. I mean, nobody's perfect. We all deal with our own personal obstacles and stuff. But I think what's cool about this show is that we could take a step back from wrestling at times and kind of look at the bigger picture of life. And, you know, it's not venting, it's more talk therapy. It's the way I look at it. Depression, people can handle it in their own ways. They can be silent about it. They can talk about it. It's something that's very important that doesn't get enough attention in my point of view. Just the talking about it. Like, you could say you're depressed and this and that, and people just look at you and say, oh, stop trying to feel sorry for yourself and you're making excuses to not do this or that. Like, everybody always has to find an out when somebody has an issue, but you don't really know if that person really has that issue. It's like, let's say I'm interviewing somebody, right? And I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And it's like a simple question, like, hey, what's up? Like, even like in a Facebook message, let's say, hi, how are you doing, right? Like, oh, I'm doing okay. Are you doing okay? Are you doing fine? So I wanted to spend the first part of the show. We're not going to make it sappy or make you feel bad about it, but this is something to open your eyes about an issue that is plaguing this country, I think, more than what the media wants you to know and what other popular issues are out there. I'm not saying that mental health trumps cancers or other diseases and this and that, but it doesn't get enough attention in my point of view. So with it being mental health awareness, if you have any stories or things that you deal with, we'll love to hear from you guys as well. So let's spend the first little part of this of the show talk about our experiences, stuff we deal with and challenges we deal with, and we'll go back to having some fun. All right.
I'll say, yeah, and you know what, Josh, I think to your, you know, like kind of what you just said, I would actually say, you know, mental health is, I would say, just as important as cancer research, just as important as any other field of health that's going on. And you know, I know I'm going to get a lot of kickback on that, but listen, the numbers don't, I hate to pull a Ty Dillinger, but the numbers don't lie. Somebody in this country commits suicide every 22 minutes. That's a fact. You know, by the time we do our show, Josh, 5 or 6 people would have committed suicide, right? I mean, right. Or three, four. How long's our show normally? About 80 minutes, so whatever. Yeah, that's a frightening thing to think about, and that's something that happens in this country every day. And we just chalk it up to, well, they were just sick people, and that's not the case. And listen, guys, and Josh, I'm glad that you said that, you know, a lot of times talking through it is the best form of therapy. You know, I see a therapist once a week. Once a week I talk to a therapist. And it's, you know, I'm not saying everybody has to or should, or it's, you know, but I also understand that I as a person need that. I need to be mentally well. I think everybody needs to be mentally well. You know, I think a lot of people aren't, and they don't realize it, or it's, you know, it's hard. I think it's a hard conversation to have with yourself a lot of times, but you know, it is important, I think, and I think there would be a lot less violence in the world. You know, listen, I'm not. Everybody knows I'm not a big fan of guns, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later too. But you know, at the same time, there absolutely is a mental health issue when it comes to gun violence. You know, it isn't just the gun. You know, it isn't just a gun problem in this country. It is, but it is also a mental health issue. It's not mutually exclusive to one or the other. And you know, we tend to shrug off mental illnesses as, you know, oh well, and we don't take it in this country serious enough. And I think that we tend to not only we're, like I said, we deny ourselves, outright warning signs, and we deny the warning signs of others because we don't, you don't want to be the person to have to say something to somebody, or, and I always talk about it, Josh. One of my mates over in the UK, he lives in Northampton. My buddy Tom, he was one of the best men at my wedding. I partially owe my life to him. I didn't know that medication that I was on that, and I'm sure we'll get into that in the conversation, me being bipolar myself, but, I was put on an antidepressant after being in a car accident. And, when you're bipolar, you are absolutely not supposed to be on an antidepressant. So, it changed some things for me, and nobody stopped and said, "Hey man, what's up?" And it was one of my buddies over in England at WrestleMania 30. And pulled me aside and said, "Yo, what is going on with you?" And I'm glad that he did. I'm glad that he did, because I don't know what I would. We might be having a much different conversation, or maybe not even having a conversation at all. So yeah, Josh. Let's. I am all, not to use a pun, but I'm all in. Let's talk about this a little bit.
I think, like you mentioned there, people saying, "Oh well, this that." There's a big part of the society right now where we're just callous to certain situations and just conversations, which I think is weird. Where like we could be all have like our chest puffed out on social media and have this bravado and this talk all this game and stuff on social media without. A part of you even thinking how it affect other people, but like you talk about like pumping your chest out and you're this and that, but off of social media you can't even have a conversation with a family member face to face, or even having any conversations on the phone. And I think that's one of the problems that starts there. I mean, you can vent, you could complain, rant, do what you gotta do, but when people do want to reach out to you and ask how you're doing, it's something that I'm dealing with, where I'm kind of critiquing myself right now, where there's a lot of times over the years where I put myself in a shell and put a big guard in front of me for me open up my issues to other people. Like I'm very private for the stuff I want to keep to myself. There's very select people that know like the deep issues that I went to. You're one of those people that know about that. But of course, we have our own barriers about things that we want people to know about our lives and this and that, and that's understandable. But like, I don't know why we could talk all this game on social media, but we can't have a regular conversation about problems in person or on the phone.
Well, I think it's because, a lot of times when people are feeling depressive or insecure, or because a lot of what drives depression, depressive episodes, is the feeling of being lesser than. And it's not in a way of, and I'm not talking about, I don't want to make it seem like I'm talking about anybody else or even myself in this standpoint. I'm just saying these are, because I've along with my own issues, I've researched a lot of mental health things. I guess you could say it's kind of a hobby and side thing. I'm a pretty big advocate for it, but that's a way for people to mask the pain. It's the tears of a clown. It's in a different way. Some people go bravado, Josh. I go comedy. It's absolutely 130% the reason why I constantly, try to tell smart ass jokes on my Twitter, when I still had a Twitter account, or that I actually used, or when I had a Facebook that I still used. It was just to try to make people laugh. And absolutely, it was the tears of a clown. That's somebody that is just realistically just goes through manic episodes, and in his worst moments, sometimes for me, it made me feel good to have others laugh. Some people don't want that. They like to go and they like to have people fight. They want to go get into an argument with someone, and that makes them, a better person. They feel like, people handle it in different ways. And that's why I don't necessarily want to criticize a lot of people on Twitter or on Facebook or on this or that, because, I do think there's a lot more, and I think there's a lot more, mental health issues out there, because I think we have an over-medication problem. Josh, I think that's a big issue. I mean, we're called over-medicated America for a reason. If I didn't care enough about myself, and if I didn't have some people in my life that cared enough about me, I never would have, realized and actually took a step back and realized, oh, wait a minute. I've been on 10 different mood regulators in 18 years, and all 10 of them have caused me to go fucking insane. Maybe there's some bad things here. Not everybody has that luxury. They have a doctor that's going to switch them to this medicine, to this medicine, to this medicine, to this medicine, and you have to kind of stop yourself. And again, what I'm saying is that, a lot of people think that, well, since I'm on medication, I guess I'm fine. I mean, it just must be it's just a side effect. There's nothing wrong with me. And then they go off to the next medication, or they add another medication on top of that, because, like, Josh, it always kills me. Did you ever see the commercial? Are you depressed? Is your antidepressant medication making you more depressed? Take this. It helps your depression while you're depressed on your antidepressant. How about maybe just not take the antidepressant, because it's probably making your depression worse? And again, guys, I'm not saying that medicine is imperative to a lot of people, but I do think that there is an over-medication in this country, that people are misdiagnosed because it's just easy to throw people on something that they can toss down their throats. And I think that's where a lot of when you look at the world and you see a lot of the sociopathic behavior that you see today, I'm saying from experience, because I for a couple of years, and I've been very public about it, about being, I'm just not allowed to say the name of the drug, but it rhymes with Shamshalta. But but it turned me into it turned me from Dr. Jekyll into Mr. Hyde, and or whichever one's the good to the bad. I don't know. It's been a long time since I messed with that. So I don't know, Josh. I think that is playing into today's society as well, because we don't have enough people and or physicians that care enough to really research not only alternative forms of wellness, whether it be just standalone therapy, exercise, a diet, change in diet, medicinal marijuana is fantastic for people with bipolar, but not for everybody. Just like these pharmaceutical drugs are not for everybody, So I think that's part of the problem, though, Josh, is that right now there's a lot of sociopathic behavior kind of piggybacking on one another, because we're becoming, I always say that, once you see something, it's a one of a kind thing. See it twice, it becomes common. See it 3 times, it becomes a part of the culture. You know what I mean? And right now I just feel as though that Patrick Bateman-esque behavior and attitude and mentality is almost becoming normalcy. And it really started, in my opinion, more so than social media and the internet, when they started direct-to-consumer advertising with pharmaceutical drugs. And we're only one of 3 countries in the world that does it. And it started with an antidepressant and a boner pill. So you tell me what Big Pharma is trying to do.
Right. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, where in society we're easy to fall down the status quo and settle for things and be dependent on simple solutions. In any form of life, anytime any conflict comes your way, there's always those who are listening, this family member. Anytime you're down the dumps about money, about relationships, this, that, there's always one family member that always seems to have the answers to everything, the simplest answers for every little obstacle that comes your way. And while you appreciate them trying to help out, sometimes it's not helping out. I think people put a lot of things higher than happiness, and I don't think that's right. I think love is important in your family. I do think having a stable living condition is important as well. And but I don't feel like money and other factors are important than happiness, and we put that too many times over our own mental being, because I could be functioning. I could have a roof over my house. Yes, I could have clothes to wear and food to eat and this and that. And that's part of life. I'm not saying I'm not grateful for that stuff, but I'm not me if I'm not happy. I'm living, but am I really living? Am I where I want to be personally? And it doesn't even have to be from a monetary or success standpoint. Am I personally happy with myself? Am I waking up the next morning and saying, hey, today's going to be a good day. Things are going my way. Things are looking up from here and out. And that's kind of stuff that I struggle with personally. Even put all the broadcasting and podcasting shit to the side. Like, there's days that I'll go throughout. I remember this when I was in high school, especially when my parents got divorced. So it's like, well, I wake up one day, I'm like, well, what the fuck up? What issue's gonna come today? There's a big part of that for a few years when I was in high school, and like the shit was going down with my family, and I'm like, what's next? And it shouldn't have been that way. And a lot part of that is that I got dragged into the middle of that situation, divorce, and that really affected me personally. Added along to the years of bullying that I dealt with during elementary school and this and that. That really fucked me up. And I mentioned this story before. I was born with tubes down my ears, so I couldn't hear for the first 2 years of my life. And there was a lot of stuff I had to go through. I took special ed classes, even though I wasn't like mentally off. It was just a hearing issue. But here we are. Even like the early 2000s. This is not just something that happens now in society where we're just cruel to people. But like even then, like the early 2000s and stuff, when I was in elementary school, even going through high school, where you got to bring down people because they're different from you, or they had different ways of growing up, or have these defects and this and that, and it fucking sucks. It really does.
Well, yeah, brother. And you know what? It's nobody's business where I work, but I just did an article, and it was actually about PTSD. And the misconception about PTSD is that it has to be military or war related, which, listen, absolutely is. I mean, let's not sugarcoat that, but anybody can suffer from post-traumatic stress. I mean, post-traumatic stress is just by definition is something that traumatizes you as a human being. And, when people say that, people are triggered by this, that, or the other thing, I would be remiss if I didn't say that there isn't things from my childhood that you go back to that, you don't think would trigger you. Then all of a sudden something happens. It takes you back to a certain dark place that you thought you had locked away, and you threw those keys away, years ago. And then your whole day, your entire day's ruined. And to kind of like keep it going with what you're saying too. The one thing that I don't think can be said enough, and I don't think it needs to really be heard a little bit more, is the one thing that you never want to do, because anybody that does suffer from any sort of anxiety, depressive stuff, bipolar. I mean, you guys know, self-harm. You guys know what I'm talking about. The worst thing that you could say to somebody that is going through a mental situation, or is hey, just suck it up and get better, or oh, you know what, tomorrow will be fine. That actually has been, studies have proven it does make manic episodes worse. It makes anxiety worse. It makes I think that it's human nature to be traumatized, because we're all fragile beings. As strong as we all would like to think that we are, and one of the things I love that Hulk Hogan said, and that's something that you're rarely going to hear from me, by the way. One of the things I love that Hulk Hogan said in the Andre the Giant documentary on HBO was, this is an industry of guys that think they're tough. Andre was tough, you know what I mean? And I think that, we live in a world where we all do feel as though we're a little bit tougher than what we are, but we forget that we are just human beings. And the mind is something that's so fragile and something that you cannot control your own mind. Your mind controls you. You don't control your own mind. You have to kind of learn how to live with the demons inside your own head. If you do have some, I'm not saying everybody has some. I envy those that don't. But believe me, I envy those that don't, because I love the people out there that always say, if I've ever taken a shot at you, you don't know what it's like to live in my body and what I say to myself all day long, So, and I think that's something else that there needs to be more empathy on. Okay, listen, we know people are good, and that's why I am so happy that Morrow is doing what he's doing, and I feel he's so brave for doing what he's doing, because I don't know if I would want anybody to see me on like my worst times, and as some people have, and I'm not proud of that, because there's a lot of shame that comes with different things like that. I mean, you feel like a broken person. That's why before there was such a thing as broken Matt Hardy, there was broken Adam Daley, the Joker that I did 1 year for, and that was absolutely a play on it was my own Joker that I did, that it was, if I was Joker, and which is my favorite Joker, by the way. But it's just one of those that you feel like you're a broken human being, and we're not, and that's the one thing that I'm glad that Morrow is showing and has the bravery to really show that we're not. This isn't something that, if you deal with any of the things listed, this isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something knowing that if every single day that you're going, every next step that you take, every fight that you get through, that's a badge of honor. I don't look at my flaws as weaknesses anymore. I've just started I embrace and I dance with my demons now. It's, you just have to learn how to control them. That sounds like that sounds like something a crazy person would say. And I'm not saying that I'm not. But you know what I mean? I'm not, but it's, but I think, listen, I am, and I'm saying all these things because I know that I'm probably not alone when I'm talking about things like this. So, this is why I think it's important, guys. I don't want anybody out there, and Josh, why I think it's important that we keep having this conversation, because nobody should feel ashamed for having any sort of mental illness, whether they suffer from depression, whether it's bipolar, whether it's listen, schizophrenia is starting to come earlier and earlier with people now. You're starting to see these are very real things, and I don't like, just like you said, Josh, I don't like when people use it. There are people that just say, well, I'm depressed. No, you've just never been told no before. You don't know what you don't know what depression is until you've convinced yourself that the world would be a much better place with you off of it. That's depression. That's a low spot. Not my team didn't win a championship. Like, you know what I mean? And this is a good time to slip in. Congrats to the Caps on knocking the Pens out. You guys have owed us for years. I forgot to mention this last week. I've been saying it every year that sooner or later Ovi was going to get us. So congrats. And any Penguins fans out there, we were champs for like 700 days. Stop it. Quit whining. Jesus Christ.
The Peyton Manning of the NHL.
It's Tom Brady. Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. That's what it is. It's Sidney Crosby and Ovi. I mean, I know people aren't going to like that, but it's Crosby's the Brady and Ovi's the Manning. But this was so. Congrats, Caps fans. I know LeBar's a big Caps fan, so. Congrats to him. But yeah, Josh, it's one of those where I think that when people overuse depression and stuff like that as an excuse, and that does infuriate me at times, because there those of us that do suffer from different things, no matter what it is, and I don't think one is worse or better than the other, because we all have to deal with it in our own way. I don't like to say, well, this person has it worse than this person, or that person has it worse. I don't like to do that. I don't. We all, and I think there's a lot of people out there that don't realize how much they're probably holding in. And that's why everybody is so at each other's throats all the time. And Josh, like you said, people need to open up and actually talk about what's bothering them, instead of instantly building the wall around you and putting your guard up first. We have to be able to drop our guard and become vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable to heal. That's just science.
You know, me and Adam do share a lot of similarities, and I do consider him a brother, a bigger brother that I never had. But, you know, we both have different dynamics that we bring to the show, not only from an age point of view, but, you know, Adam has a family that he has to look out for, and I'm in a different position. I'm still in my mid-20s and this and that. So while we do share a lot of similarities, there's differences that we deal with as we're growing into our different stages of life and stuff. But I think that's a cool part of the show where we can tap into that. But it's I always remember one of my cousins telling me, and I thought this was always stupid, where you can't relate to people that are 10 or 15 years older than you, which I always thought was weird because for whatever reason, I've always had more of a connection. I even had more friends that are older than me than people I have my age. Right. And this is shoot. Maybe I'm different from most people. Like this is a little behind the scenes thing. I had like, this is not something where I want people to feel sorry for me because I wanted it to be this way. But like in high school, I had like two people that I even considered friends, and it also came to the point where it just became acquaintances. Like I wasn't a person that was seeking approval in high school. I had a goal when I got in there. I wanted to get into Berkeley. That was my goal. My passion was keeping me sane while my family was being torn apart during high school. But I had two friends, Ezekiel Oliati, a good friend of mine from who moved into Chicago from Africa. I love that guy. Shout out to you, Ezekiel. And then my other friend, Alan Rueda, who was also a big wrestling fan. So give shout out to Alan too. He also checked out our podcast recently. Those are always two guys I always go to whenever I need to vent. But high school, I wasn't liked. Not because of my own doing, but, you know, people put labels on you and this and that. People don't try to get to know you and this and that and all this other bullshit. But, you know, I never looked for sympathy, but there was a lot of times I was lonely, man. Like what you're saying, like there's a part of you where you're like, the world would be better off without me. I was at that point in 2012. I was at that point, and the worst part about it, I didn't even feel bad about it. Then that's something that people don't really put into they don't think about, is when you're at the point where you don't care about anything and you don't even regret not being here anymore. That fucking sucks. That's true. Excuse me. That's true depression, guys. I mean, when you have a total indifference towards anything, you know, I mean, we're supposed to feel. We're supposed to have that range of emotion of sadness, hurt, betrayal, joy, celebration. Like, you know, we're supposed to enjoy the ebb and flow of life, that ups and downs. Some of us, unfortunately, feel the ebbs and flows a little bit stronger, and they're a little bit more extreme, you know. But, you know, by the same token, it's funny because I would never wish the thoughts to go through my head on anyone on any given day. And again, guys, I'm not saying there's any validity with what I'm saying. I know that this world is not going to be, and I know a lot of people will disagree with that out there, but that's what I love about, you know, having a voice to speak about. No, but you know, obviously the world isn't a much better place without me. It's just, I understand that, and listen, I took psychology classes in college too. It's something I've always kind of been fascinated with, the human brain and the way that it works, the way that it does, and whatever. But, you know, that's something that when you know you start to have those feelings, or you hear people even like kind of quasi-joking, I mean, those are red flags, guys. You know, and sometimes you want to step in and have that hard conversation of, hey, listen, you know, you're scaring me a little bit. Like, what's going on? Like, it's okay to start having tough conversations with people, not make fun of them behind their back, not be like, yo, hey, they were talking about, like, it's, you know, sometimes you do have to, we need to start being our brother's keeper again. What do you think about the whole thing about a person like from my age can't relate to somebody from your generation?
Yeah,
like,
you know, thank you for bringing that up. I was actually going to totally forget about that. I personally think I disagree because, and this is just me, I'm sorry, my allergies are so bad today, dude. But I look at it this way. In my life, because of, I mean, listen, I childhood divorce too. My mother did what she could. She was always working. I'm not, my dad was living in New Jersey. I'm not here to down talk either of them, but, there was a lot of getting bounced around homes and raising myself. And, like I always said, what got me into wrestling obviously was the pomp circumstance, whatever. But Bobby Heenan was holy shit. I related him to my dad and his friends, right? But when I started watching comedy, I looked at comedy, and why I'm kind of doing a quick transition over is, you talked about it, but George Carlin was a guy that I instantly always kind of delve into and would always go back to. And it's because people aren't going to like this, especially Josh. I think some of your listeners, because I know sometimes I think you might have a younger demographic, but with age does come wisdom, and I'm not trying to say older people are smarter. I'm not trying to start this ageist argument or nothing like that. But I promise you that age 38 Adam Daley is a hell of a lot wiser than age 28 Adam Daley or age 24 Adam Daley or age 18 Adam Daley. I mean, it's leaps and bounds differently, So I think that it can only help you. That if you find somebody my boss right now is my mentor. I mean, that's 100%. And this man is a rags to riches success. And he's, I don't know, a decade older than me, maybe. I don't know how old he is, but there's a lot of things that I relate to him on, and there's a lot of things that he's taught me about just being a better person. Just, that's where I get a lot of that, 168 hours in a week, just different things like how are you spending your time? I think it's important to find somebody that you relate to that just in general, but you want somebody that you can relate to that has lived through some life experiences to kind of prepare you so that, hey, I know that your personality type might be this. I'm the same way. I went through a similar scenario. This is how I got through it. I think that I don't see how that can't help. I mean, that's only added value.
Any final things you wanted to touch on before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of I guess just show you how things can, just change. Guys, I'll admit I'm probably not going to be that sharp when it comes to wrestling talk this week, just because I've been kind of out of it and all over the place. I mean, and let me give you the rundown. And this is what I mean, guys. And like you said, Josh, this isn't a sob story, but this is real life. And when you deal with anxiety and you deal with kind of battling yourself and you deal with a lot of other things, you run through a tough week where people overly obsess about who's being booked where. And I constantly say, you know what, I have more important things to worry about. In the past week, I found out that, I don't know, I have TMJ apparently, which I didn't know that I ever had that before, but apparently I have that. I have to get my liver tested. My cholesterol is through the roof, and I have to get a bunch of blood work done because they're concerned about some things. My cousin was just murdered, shot and killed in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, and guys, this is my mother, this is twice that she's been through this. Her cousin was a Pittsburgh police officer. His name was Paul Schuler. And he was murdered in the line of duty back in 2009, by somebody in their house held up with a gun. All because Barack Obama won the presidency. I mean, and he went, but liberals. So this dude, murdered three Pittsburgh police officers, and my mother's cousin was one of them. And on Mother's Day, this past weekend, my second cousin, so whatever, got murdered on her mother's in her mother's driveway on Mother's Day. Cold blood. Someone shot her 10 times. I guess very close range. It's making national news now. Her name is Rachel Del Tondo. All I ask is, and the reason why I'm talking about this is, I don't really know what, I haven't talked to her in a long time, but I don't want her death to be in vain. I don't know anything really about, I know about as much as everybody else, what's going on in the media. But there's just a lot of things that just don't add up, or a lot of coincidences that are just, I don't know. I don't believe in coincidences when it comes to crime. It's just that happenstance doesn't happen that way. And I think just the more people are interested, the more people are talking about this, the more exposure this case can get. Maybe, her death won't be all for naught, because my biggest concern is what happens in small town America. And this is the problems that they don't talk about on the news, is murders like this that get covered up. And it doesn't matter black, white, it doesn't matter, because they don't want to give the town a bad name. They don't want to give the town, and I'm talking about when it's the victim, they don't want to give small town America a bad name. So, but at the same time, this is an absolutely gruesome murder, and there's a lot of misinformation that's being floated around, and and I don't, and like I said, it's a shame, because she was very, very intelligent girl. I know, she meant a lot to my family. My mother adored her. So it's just that's something that I really want. I want people to research, and it reminds me a lot of a Steubenville case from a couple years ago, when a young lady was sexually assaulted down there, and it actually took the group Anonymous, or a sect of Anonymous, to get involved and kind of blow the doors off it, or else it was going to get swept under the carpet, just because they don't want that. Small town doesn't want the national exposure, but this was a 33-year-old young woman that got killed in cold blood. Like I said, I don't believe in coincidences, so. I'd like to see a lot of awareness being brought up for that. So if anybody out there, is wants to see violence, and listen, I'm not going after guns on this either. I mean, that's not my intent. Enough is enough. We always want to talk about gun violence. We always want to talk about all the stigmas that go attached to it. But yet when we have situations like this, we never want to find the real answer. It's just, and if this case goes cold, it's just going to be chalked up to another one of, it's just those illegal guns again. And I don't know. So, like I said, definitely there's, don't just go off of one report, read a lot, because there's a lot of misinformation being thrown around too. But her name is Rachel Del Tondo, and she was a wonderful person. She's she's gonna be missed by a lot of people. So if I'm a little off on wrestling this week, between my health, between some family stuff, and between some stuff that was going on at home, just kind of, it was a tough week for the kid over here. The Clown Prince was having a tough one. But guys, I guess that's for my thing is, please research the story, share the story, get angry about this story, because this isn't, in 2018, this is garbage that this can happen, and that, and especially when she was an informant for police officers, so you can put two and two together, I guess. I don't know. It's just a shame.
The last thing I wanted to mention about this is that, and I want to give a shout out to Mauro Rodal for this, because he was talking about this with Rich Eisen yesterday, and he started breaking down, and he was talking about how you can't judge or scoff at people at a moment. For people that do decide to go that alternative route, I don't need to go in it. I think you guys know where I'm going with this, but there are reasons. Can it be prevented? Of course. However, I think unfortunately a lot of these causes a lot of these actions come out of internal, just reaching that boiling point internally, where, like I was mentioning earlier, you're so empty inside that you don't even have a person to go to from your family to go to. Then you're like, fuck it. And I'm not trying to say that's right or wrong. It's just what comes with this territory. But even as somebody like myself that unfortunately even tried to consider going that route a few years ago, you'll start really like. There's a reason why I promote positivity on this show. It's because I was at a part where I was so dark within myself a few years ago that I never wanted to get back to that point. And I kind of think that's kind of the reason why I had to make a change. Like, people look at me and like listen to the shows or stuff I've done in the past and be like, this guy's just delusional to real life and act like everything is rainbows and butterflies. No, I'm not. I had a bad childhood, and again, I'm not looking for sympathy. I know people that went through way worse than I have, but I was such in a bad place in 2012 where I was gonna call it off, and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad that I found a purpose to stick around. I'm glad that I was able to talk this out and look at it from another side. But, you know, don't put people in the box. Don't look the other side. You know, if you see somebody, even if it's a stranger, even then, even if it's like a stranger down the street, or if you're at a park or something, and you see somebody breaking down or whatever, talk to them. If they don't want to be bothered, then okay, that's on them. But I think we're doing ourselves a disservice where we can prevent a lot of these issues where we're actually there. Same like, you know, the one thing that I always had an issue, even with families and this stuff, and this is just my point of view. You know, you'll have friends or family members that say they'll be there for you, but they're not. Correct. And this is part of real life. And it's something I've dealt with. It's something that Adam has dealt with. We all have those family members that say that, oh, we'll be there for you when you're down or whatever. And they're not. And that's just part of life. But again, if you have a stranger, a friend, a family member that you really consider, that you see is breaking down, reach out to them. That's all I gotta say on that.
Yeah, well, and you know, with what you're alluding to, and guys, I was institutionalized back in 2000 for what they said was a suicide attempt, and you know, and I don't know in hindsight that I don't know that it wasn't. You know, I know that I was partying and I just said screw it, and I threw some pills down my throat, and you know, I think, you know, maybe subconsciously that yeah, it was a cry for help, but at the same time too, I think there was a feeling of, you know, I didn't care. I think with other people, you know, and I don't want to pretend to know, you know, anybody else's scenarios or you know, but I do think that there comes a time where, you know, when people deal with pain, and nothing tends to relieve that pain, or you're put on medicine and it just makes the pain worse, or it's, you know, you start to think to yourself, okay, so I'm supposed to live with this pain forever, you know, and I think that it's not that it's in, you know, easy out for people, but I almost feel it's, you know, they look at it as the more humane, and which shouldn't be, and that's why I'm saying this. That should not be. It shouldn't be that there's medicines that are making people sicker than what they already are. It shouldn't be that we're misdiagnosing people. It shouldn't be that people have to live with stigmas, have to live with albatrosses, that they're quote unquote crazy, or they are unstable, or they can't hold a job, or they can't do this, or they can't, you know, there's so many unfair stigmas that are labeled with mental health, and that lead people that do struggle, it makes their symptoms, no matter what they are, worse. And I think that's why suicide numbers are as high as they are, because we are not addressing it not only humanly the right way, but from the side of people in the medical field. I don't know if we're necessarily approaching it the right way either. We have to figure it out a different way. We really do.
Let's play a little game called You Played Yourself before we get to wrestling. I think a little something you guys will notice with this show in the next couple of weeks is like we're going to try to bring in some more live topics. Maybe not as deep all the time like today's was, but I think it was very important.
Yeah, better not be heavy like this all the
time. But I hope you guys get a chance to you know, sit back and try to listen to what we're saying, and then just make your conclusions after that. Like, hear us out and hear what we have to say about this, because, like, I'm not welling up with tears or anything right now, but like this stuff is deep, and we're just keeping it 100. You know, this is not something where we planned this, or this is just a real genuine conversation right now. So I want to thank you guys so much for letting us get our stories out with that. All right. So
and I think it's important, Josh, real quick before we segue over. I think it's important to have this during Mental Health Awareness Month too. You know, I think this is a good. That's exactly what this month is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be talking about not only raising awareness, but sharing personal stories so that others can share. Mental health is the only disease out there that can truly be helped by word of mouth. You can't cure cancer just by talking to each other. You can't cure, but you can help. You can help somebody that's depressed. You can help. I'm not saying cure it. I'm not saying, but there's ways. This is something that we need more people to share their stories. We need more people to so that way, like you said, Josh, more people can relate to one another, and that's how ultimately we can come together and we can all beat this disease together. And then we can just Moro's Canadian, isn't he?
Yep.
I was going to say then we can just elect Moro president and be happy, but he's Canadian. Can we make an exception?
Right. I don't know why you consider Vancouver part of Canada. I always looked at it as the United States, but that's I've never been to Vancouver. I gotta go. Oh
my God, I had a blast in Vancouver, man. That city is gorgeous, welcoming. I mean, it was so hospitable to me. I love the city of Vancouver.
We gotta check it out sometime. We gotta take a trip out there or something. You know what I mean?
it's expensive, but it's worth it.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
All right. I know you said this has been a rough week for you, but I know you got at least some comedy or some stuff of entertainment to get your mind off of things. I know you, man. I know you have some ways to entertain yourself. Do you have anybody for this week for you played yourself?
I'll admit, man, it actually has been a tough week. Like I don't want to disappoint anybody out there, but it's been a rough one. I'm trying to go. I'll think of something. Go ahead. Right. You go first. Then.
I want to say, first off, you played yourself, John Fox. I always find it funny when coaches hate the media, especially in the NFL. Like, yeah, the strict thing where they bash the media all the time, but once they get fired, they're on ESPN and all these talk shows, and now they're a talkhead. Like it happened last year with Rex Ryan, and I remember last year they made this whole big scuttlebutt about Jeff Fisher being he said he's responsible for all the Rams' success. For last season, and I see John Fox and stuff saying that the challenges for the Bears this year is going to be their passing game. Well, who do you think is responsible for the lack of passing game last season? John Fox, you played yourself. Second one on the sports tip, Milwaukee Bucks, you played yourself. You had a chance to do something really cool that hasn't been done in sports. You had an opportunity to have a woman be the first female NBA coach, Becky Hammon, who is very, very well respected in the league. Was an assistant with the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan swears by her for her basketball knowledge. Whether her X or O's or this or that, I mean, Milwaukee's not going to – I'm sorry, guys. Milwaukee's not going to bring in big free agents or this or whatever, but I think it's a big missed opportunity for Milwaukee to not have Becky on their payroll, by the way, to become the next coach after they fired Jason Kidd last season. But that's just my opinion. I thought Becky having the story of her becoming the first woman NBA coach would have been very cool. So Milwaukee Bucks, you played yourself.
Interesting. You know what? I'm gonna say, man, I don't know who to pick for who played. Maybe I played myself this week because it's been, like I said, it's been a crazy week. But dude, literally, I just started getting caught up on a lot of the shows from the week last night. I always watch Jordan Klepper's show on Comedy Central because I think the dude's hysterical. I was behind all week on that. I was I have my DVR is filled with just nonsense of whatever, just because it's been with work, it's been so busy and with whatever. But you know what, I always like to make a joke. I always like to make a joke at my own expense. but it's about a you played yourself kind of deal. But I don't know, man. I don't have anything. I don't have anything today. I'm sorry. I'm gonna let me sound Canadian this time when I say it. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just been. It was, and I even crammed I crammed SmackDown last night just to get it in before the show today. So it's been it has been. It's just been because it's been a kind of all over the place week of like a clusterfuck of fuckery, so to speak. I guess my mind played itself this week. That's what happened.
Yeah, I got a couple more. Kurt Angle, this would be a good way when we start transitioning to wrestling stuff. Kurt Angle, you played yourself this week. He's been mapping out a way to not have Kevin Owens qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match the last 2 weeks, and then Stephanie just calls him on the phone like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna replace Jinder." So, Kurt Angle, I love you, man, but you did play yourself this week.
All right, well, then I'll get one, I guess, wrestling related in here. Guys, if oh man, I understand, and that's why, Josh, you know where I'm going with this. And dude, I understand, and I don't know because my limited internet usage this week has been to kind of research what happened with the shooting of my cousin. But I want to say that if you I don't know how to say this without getting heat. If you don't if you don't think Ronda Rousey deserves to be in a championship match, you're playing yourself. You're playing yourself. Now, I want to say this. Do I agree with it? I don't know. I don't know. I'll admit, whenever they announced it, I was like, whoa. But it's not like she hasn't shown. I mean, I think. Listen, nobody liked it, but in hindsight, like I always try to use this reference point. We didn't like it when, especially me, because it's my two, arguably favorite guys ever. I didn't like that Jericho Punk didn't main event the WrestleMania I got married at because of The Rock and Cena. I understand that now. So by the same counterpoint, I understand the different avenues that they can take because Rousey doesn't necessarily have to win. It is Money in the Bank, and somebody could try to do I don't know. I just think but here's another you played yourself, because I've been talking about this. If you guys really thought Cena and Nikki Bella were getting like that wasn't happening, you played. Have I not been the one on this show week after week saying it's a work? It's just a work. It's a work. Like the whole time it's a work. Guys,
I was gonna say anybody lining up for the Nikki Bella boyfriend
come on, man.
Appointment line that wasn't gonna work.
You played yourselves. I told the day when all this was going down, I remember because Sam was tripping about it. This is the first time I ever saw Sam get Nikki Bella's back. I was like, wait a minute. I said, this is all a work. This is like life. All the world's a stage. And
the way Josh is kind of the promo on the Kathy Lee and Honus show about his love for let me just say this though. Cena's a great guy. He is a great guy. I'm not trying to rip him about it, but that had acting written all over.
His Instagram, I think it was either today or yesterday, he posted, it was a picture of John Cusack from Say Anything where he's holding up the boombox at the end. I'm telling you, man, the dude is owning this, and listen, would I necessarily do that for TV? I would always. I'm a big karma person, man. Like karma always comes back around. Karma doesn't forgive or forget, and karma is a bad motherfucker when it comes back around. So that's why, I don't know if I necessarily would feign a failed engagement, but. Yeah, but if they want to do it for the storyline, I don't know. I just feel like that's cursing it. I wouldn't do it, but for all we know, they could have already had a secret wedding and they're already married. I mean, we don't know. We really don't know.
Right. I still get a crack out of this because, like, I saw the engagement in person at WrestleMania, which is all work City Jones. It's like work extravaganza. That's what WrestleMania is in a nutshell. But also on the Ronda Rousey tip, not only is it Mental Health Awareness Month, it's Sweeps Month. And I thought about you this week because they had the NBC upfronts in New York this week, and they're all about the ratings and who's the attraction going to be this week for the WWE property on the Universal Network, right? So that's basically what runs NBC and all those exterior networks. So yeah, I'm not surprised Ronda Rousey's getting the title shot. It's business.
And you know what, Josh? I think it was smart too, because if you look at it, and as wrestling fans in the bubble, I'm talking us in the bubble fans, Josh. You know how it is.
Right.
And not I didn't, because I got obviously had quite the week, and I wouldn't anyway because I have better things to do. But a lot of wrestling fans they'll read the spoilers for the UK shows before the show, you know.
Yeah.
So typically it might have been somewhat of a down social media week for WWE, right? That was the perfect place to plop that in there. And it crossed over, headline after headline after headline after headline after headline. So it worked. It absolutely worked. Now, I do think that there's a way that you could play in that whoever wins the female Money in the Bank can come in and cash in, and so that kind of, you know what I mean? Like they could do it same night. Kane did it before, same night. I don't see why somebody else can't do it same night. On the female side of things, and just kind of get the briefcase out of the way now. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you do put the title on her right now. Like I said, Josh, I feel like she could go in the men's mid card. So I'm okay with whatever they do with Rousey at this point. I'm excited to have her in WWE. I'm not trying to be a hater about it.
The last one for you played yourself. This one's gonna be pretty funny because I used this guy a lot when I did the Yacht Club. You're a Nimrod Club segments on the show. Very special. Vince Russo, you played yourself this week. You were not at all in, and I don't know if you saw the back and forth with him and Cody this week. Oh my God, man! That has Yacht Club written all over, man. Bad, bad. I'll say this though. Like I watched the video where he was talking about where he basically what was going to happen. He was going to play a gimmick where on the show where he was going to rip the Marks about loving indie wrestling and this and that. And this is going to have like a culmination or whatever at the podcast convention or whatever. Okay. So Vince said openly that this is going to be a storyline. I said, all right, okay, I get it. He wants to be like the anti guy, this and that. Like this has. It has all super like Markish written all over it. Let's be honest. This is like everything the hardcore wrestling fan, the bubble fan wants in one universe. So like I'm not even mad at Vince about this, but like just the whole like it was very weird because like they're announcing like the people from like the podcasts and this and that were going to be at the Starcast convention, and he was going to be there. And then Cody is like, no, you're not going to be there. We don't award bad behavior, which I thought was kind of hypocritical because you're going to allow Disco Inferno to be at the Sarcasm convention, but that's just me.
Well, you know what? It's one thing I do want to say is I haven't seen anything of that because, like I said, I haven't really been on social media, and I try not to be. But the one thing I did see a couple months ago that I absolutely disagree with, and listen, no matter how much I agree or disagree with Vince Russo, I do not agree with somebody like Ryan Satin going after his job and trying to get him taken. Like I thought that was the most cowardly bullshit. I was absolutely in Russo's corner on that one. But on the flip side, you know what though, Josh, I actually think there could have been something. I mean, if that was supposed to be if they were going to run that as an angle where there actually could have been an element that would have been. Listen, this is where I take a lot of heat for being. I don't want to say the voice of reason, but at least playing devil's advocate. Let's not put it past that absolutely could have worked. Having Vince kind of berate, the IWC or the indie bubble or whatever you want to call it, and then have it just come to fruition at like some sort of an angle at the thing, like. If it gets a pop and it gets people talking and, and everyone's playing their characters and playing the roles and stuff like that, maybe there is something to it. Now, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to stay out of all the bad blood with wrestling people and stuff like that, because I'm trying to just be like, I just appreciate wrestling and what people do for the industry. You know what I mean? So listen, Vince has done. Everyone wants to bash him, and I get it. But years ago, he did some good, and he's just trying to make a living for his family. You can't fault the dude for that, but. But I don't know, man. Like I always say, Vince treated me well, so I don't necessarily want to take sides. Obviously in an argument that way, without knowing the full story either. Like Twitter is the dumbest shit. Unless you talk to me on Twitter, like I don't keep you on my Twitter. Like this ain't Spies Like Us, man. You know what I mean? Like I'm not there for fodder for people to run back to their podcast and use. Like it's you either want to say what's up or just don't fucking don't come my way.
Right. Yeah, Vince has his show on the network called Castrate the Marks, where he basically like plays the clips from like the douchiest podcasts out there, like the Meltzer and Alvarez reports and Keller, this and that. And I thought, like you said,
that on there. I want to be one of the douchiest.
And he said that would work perfectly for him to do like that, castrating the marks at the convention. I thought it would have been interesting, but the thing with Cody though, to say that award bad behavior, but you look at some of the people that are going to be like appearing at the convention. I mean, come on.
Well, see, I also think in the end, Vince would have to be the one to end up with egg on his face too. It's almost a story that you're telling of he would have to be the butt of the joke at the end of it too, and that but listen, at the same time, I'm not going to go against anything that Cody's doing or the Bucks are doing, because they told this started with a whole we bet they'll never get 10,000 people, and Cody and the Bucks kind of took it upon themselves and said, okay, that's a bet, game on. Dude, I'm not going to lie, Sam and I are talking about coming up for All In, just to be up there for the weekend, even if we can't get tickets or it's sold out or whatever. Like we're trying to we're really picking and choosing our couple destination things that we're doing this year, and All In might be one of them this year. It's one of those unique moments in time that what if it never happens again? And it's been put together so well, and it's something that you kind of you feel like you want to be a part of,
Right. We'll talk a little bit more about All In towards the end of the podcast. Let's talk a little bit about Money in the Bank coming up. Raw and SmackDown this week. We're in London. Another big wrestling heavy edition of. Okay.
I'm sorry, Josh. I got one more. You played yourself, because I played myself. I did. I'm sorry, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I put the Daily Curse on Absolution. I bought the shirt, literally received the shirt. I got 2 days shipping so that we can have all these shirts for it's just whatever. Got the shirt, wore the shirt once, and Absolution was no more. So I apologize, and I apologize to any Absolution fans out there. I played myself, and I think I put the Daily Curse on Absolution. So.
Damn.
You know what I mean? We're at one time. God damn it.
I'm in this new stage now where I'm cover the shows a day after now. I mentioned before with this new job I'm having, cleaning out tubes where I have green mixer, green, yellow, and red tattoo tubes, looking like a Skittles. Skittles waterfall contraption. It's fun. By the way, anybody in the city of Chicago that are going to be at Money in the Bank weekend or All In, they want tattoos, come to the city. I'm in the west side of Chicago. I'm not in the suburbs. There's a lot of people that rep Chicago, but they're in Hoffman Estates is some bumblefuck section of the state. No, it's not Chicago. You mean the amount of bastards? By the way, where All In is not Chicago.
Where is that? Where's the arena at?
Hoffman Estates.
Hoffman Estates, okay.
Yeah.
And where they typically go, that's Rosemont, correct?
Yeah.
Where Money in the Bank will be.
A little bit down the road from there, yeah. Okay. Yeah. They have 3 different intersections. They got Rosemont, they got Des Plaines, and then Hoffman Estates, all next to each other. So
I always, and I know this is getting off topic, but I always still crack up about Rosemont just because I just think back to WrestleMania 22 and just how I just remember getting there thinking, okay, so this is my hotel. There's 3 bars and a Target, and that's the arena. Like, it was literally like I could, not to sound like Uncle Rico, but bet you I could throw a football over them, their target, you know. It was literally like it was just a unique way that everything was set up right there.
Yeah, yeah, my city got a unique setup where we have airplanes going all over the top of our heads, literally over the top of our heads in the parking lot of that arena.
That's just like everything in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's just like everything in Pittsburgh, though.
It's something about the Allstate Arena for me that I have a special connection to that building, man. I've been there a gazillion times. Even for they even have flea markets inside the parking lot of the arena. And you can get to go inside and tour inside the arena and stuff when there's not events going on. They do it on a Sunday. It's called Wolf's Flea Market. It's pretty cool. I went there a lot with my grandparents when I was younger. I don't know if they still do it now, but yeah, me love me some Rosemont Horizon. I'm not calling it Allstate Arena. Damn you, corporations! No, it's the Horizon. Damn it.
Yeah, that's it took me a while from when the Civic Arena went to the Mellon Arena, and then it was Console Energy. I still call it Console. This whole PPG Paints Arena is like whatever. It sounds like it sounds like it's supposed to be like PG Paints, but someone was like, it's PG Paints.
Yeah.
Well, like Simple Jack.
What was it called? What was it called when the Rumble you went to the last time you saw Punk?
Console.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Punk's last show. Was in same building as as PPG Paints right now, but but it was the Console Energy Center back then.
This all comes full circle, man. Think about this. We got Money in the Bank at the Allstate Arena. Then we have Extreme Rules in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
You're in Pittsburgh. I'm in Chicago.
Yep.
Bro.
It's them wrestling cities, man. Them wrestling cities.
Yes, sir. So there's a lot of wrestling on Raw. Some very good matches. I thought Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens just brought it this week. I thought some really good stuff from them. Shout out to the B team. I'm so happy for Bo and Axel that they're on television and they're not all openly being treated like jokes. Like they're actually going with this and they have like a little storyline for themselves recruiting, which I think is cool. I like the B team.
I do too. I really do too. Yeah.
The Maharaja got. I don't want to say masculine, but he got mollywopped this past month by Roman Reigns.
Yeah, he got tossed around pretty good, didn't he?
Yeah, he got. As our truth would say, he got. So let's see what else. Oh, Alexa Bliss qualified for the Money in the Bank ladder match. I want to give a shout out to Sami Zayn for a moment because, yes, I do rip on his theme song. I do like him as a wrestler. I want to make that clear. I am a fan of his. I just don't like his theme song. Even for him being a bad guy, you got a cheap take of Seinfeld music for him.
Sami Zayn's? You don't like the ska music? You don't feel you don't want to skank to it?
No, I don't.
Dude, it doesn't. I like an old punk kind of ska guy that like years ago used to be just a little bit into that scene. I mean, I don't. Yes, it's not. I mean, I don't mind it. His and Becky Lynch's sound a lot. It sounds similar to me. Kind of have like a whatever, but it doesn't bother me as much.
But I'll give a shout out to him. He has a way of cutting these heel promos now where you like do want to punch him in the face. This is the way he talks and this and that. I was listening to his promo for like he's trolling Bobby Lashley now and they're going to get a feud with each other, which is something different. I don't mind. I know people are kind of ripping on Lashley. Last week we talked about it, about the whole sisters stuff and this and that. But add some new layers to Sammy's character, but also Bobby Lashley's character as well. So it looks like they may fight each other at Money in the Bank, which is fine. I don't know if it's like a long feud or whatever. I talked about this a couple weeks ago with this combined pay-per-views. You're going to have these one-off feuds here and there sprinkled throughout these shows. So I just want to give a shout out to Sammy because I thought he had cut a very good promo this past Monday. And he's like, oh, Bobby wants to be me.
Here's what I can't wait for is anytime they do a segment, and let's just prepare ourselves already, Josh. anytime they do a segment where it is a this is your life, or they're bringing out family members, or anytime they do one of these little segments, they're little salacious segments, as they like to do. Let's face it, we know that we're going to see something regardless that we're probably going to be talking about for a long time, no matter whether it's really good or really bad. And that's why, and see, and this is, I guess, where I differ from the typical wrestling fan, Josh, is because I know going in, we're going to see something where the intent is to be overly campy. And I'm going in with that interpretation of, oh, this is going to be good because it's going to be campy and lampoon, and it's going to be, But I do feel that some people, I don't know what their expectations are, but I'm not going to lie, I can't wait to see this segment next week. And it's a segment because it's either going to fail or flop. There is no in between with stuff like this,
This kind of reminds me of Shelton Benjamin's Mamba.
Yes. And I didn't mean to say fail or flop. I meant to either succeed or flop. I'm sorry. I kind of was like, I put a double negative on them. They were like, yeah, it's definitely going to fail or flop. Like, no, it's
yeah, pal.
Damn it. At least I caught myself this time. Half the time I don't catch myself.
Stuff that reminds me of the past, like Shelton Benjamin's Mama, the real reveal with Hornswoggle being Vince's son, even though it's supposed to be Mr. Kennedy and all that.
The Raw general manager
stuff. Yeah, now it's Raw general manager. Who else?
Why did Hornswoggle always get used for damn it, we don't have anything. Whatever.
Hornswoggle, damn it.
Hornswoggle. Man, we just don't really know how to wrap this up. Like, it's something we've been doing for a year and a half. Hornswoggle. Like, they just kept throwing, we need to get rid of the Cruiserweight Championship. Hornswoggle. or light heavyweight. Whatever they called it at the time.
But, by the way, shout out to the Cruiserweights. Very good episode of 205 Live this week. They got to showcase a lot of the UK guys this week, which I enjoyed. Awesome four-way. You had Tyler Bate, TJ Perkins, Kenny Williams from ICW, and Kalisto in a fatal four-way match, which was freaking sick. And then you had another guy, very interesting character, named Flash Morgan Webster. I don't know if you guys heard of him or not, but check out 205 Live. Some good stuff with the mix with UK division. By the way, after Money in the Bank, that's the start of the UK tournament. So some cool stuff coming up on the WWE Network.
Now, I know they announced, 8 people so far?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How many men are going to be in that tournament?
I think 16.
And is Gentleman Jack Gallagher in the tournament?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna be.
That's what I thought I saw. I looked at the short list and real quick just to see, but I didn't watch any of the preview videos or anything yet. And
it's kind of crazy. I even see guys that I saw perform here in AEW, the local indie fed here in Chicago. Some of these UK guys, they make the rounds, man.
Yeah, got to. Yeah, you got to, man. Got to sell your brand. Got to get it out there.
Got to pay your dues, man.
Mm-hmm.
What was I gonna say? This week I wanted to stray away from the internet fodder and the regular complaint that we always see, this and that. I'm not going to do that.
See it.
But this is something different that I want to bring up. When you have a long build to pay-per-view, there's always a debate of, should you have all your matches announced the week of the pay-per-view, or do you spread it out throughout the week like they have been doing the past couple weeks, where they're having these qualifying matches, and you kind of have a sense of what the pay-per-view is going to be based on who's in the ladder match and this and that. Like I mentioned before, Alexa Bliss qualified this week, Becky Lynch qualified, she's beating Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. By the way, shout out to those 3 ladies, because I thought they had a very good match as well on SmackDown this week. Shout out to them. And then what are they doing
with Sonya's music? I like her entrance, but the music got it. Menu screen music.
What about the Steve Blackman stuff?
I know.
Do you see that?
I know. You know what though? I actually didn't mind that as much.
Yeah.
If the music would have fit a little better, like I said, they're on a roll right now where it's all menu screen music, and I don't like that.
Yeah. I'm trying to see who else qualified. they had this thing now with the Bar. So no, not the Bar. It was the Bar. They had a good match on SmackDown, and then they get to pick whoever for their team's going to be in there.
Probably
you
Kofi,
said that it might be Big E last week. I remember you were saying that Big E could possibly have a run this fall. So
no, actually, I think it's going to be Kofi.
You think it's going to be Kofi?
I think it's
Okay.
And the only reason why I say that is they've always kind of, as a group, anytime they've always like kind of said it, and when it's going to be like, and that person's, they've always kind of made it Kofi. You know what I mean? It's always been about like they've always, when it comes to the Royal Rumble, when it comes to, and I hate to say this, but he's a great spot guy.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean this is a no DQ match, so New Day could be ringside.
Right. Got the last qualifying match next week, Samoa Joe and Big Cass. Big Cass kind of played himself. I mean, look at the way Carmella is strutting herself around this week after her royal celebration. I mean, holy moly. I'll say this, though. I'm kind of glad she kind of got her comeuppance because this is to speak from personal experience. I dated a girl that looked exactly like Carmella. Talked, moved, the whole persona. I went through that experience. It's my sophomore year of high school. I regret it. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
I didn't know the Jersey Shore hit Chicago.
Italian, they spread throughout all
it
all
is.
the country. Yeah.
No, I know all too well.
Anything else from this week from wrestling that caught your eye from Raw or SmackDown?
Man, let me think. You know what? I do think I just have a sneaking suspicion, and it don't mean shit, but I think this year one of the briefcases is going away the same weekend as Money in the Bank. And what I mean by that is I have a feeling that whether it's the men's side or the women's side, and I could actually I could rationally fantasy book a scenario where it would make sense for either, but I think that whoever wins the men's or the women's, I think somebody cashes in either on that night on the same pay-per-view or on the Raw or SmackDown afterwards. I think it's they get one of the briefcases out of the way early, and I think there's reasons why and how they can extend storylines. And I don't want a fantasy book because I'm going to sound like a crazy person, you know what I mean? But I just have a couple things that I think would be interesting, you know. But we'll see. We'll see as it plays out. But that's just, I guess, without getting into it, I just have a feeling that a briefcase is going to already be cashed in the weekend of Money in the Bank and the Raw and SmackDown after. Right.
So here's my thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's not really like being negative or anything like that, but I appreciate that WWE's bringing Money in the Bank to Chicago. I don't think it's our time to have a takeover attached to it that weekend, because when I saw like you have takeovers in the same city as pay-per-view, like the entire like shows were going to be in that city, but Raw and SmackDown are not going to be in Chicago that weekend.
Ooh,
so
okay.
Like that's my kind of thing though. Like if this was the full WWE takeover experience, they take the entire city for the week, then okay, I'm fine with it. But and just based off some of the NXT shows I covered this week, I'm not saying that takeover is going to be bad or ever in Chicago. I might even go to the show, but I don't think it's necessary for this time before Money in the Bank. But I also know that Money in the Bank is growing as a brand, as like importance for these big 4 or 5 pay-per-views. So again, like I said, I'm not complaining. I'm probably gonna be going to the show, but there's also part of me who's like, I don't know if we need takeover before Money in the Bank. Yeah. Okay,
here's where it is, and now here's where I'm gonna call that you played yourself, because you're playing yourself right now. Because here's what I know that it really is. And let me pose this question.
Okay.
Is it more that you think maybe you guys don't necessarily need a takeover, or is it more because you wish you were getting Raw and SmackDown afterwards? Yeah, see? Every time you think you have the answer, I change the question.
Shut up, Piper. It's actually shut up, Lopez. You got me on that one. Yep.
Oh, trust me, I'm getting a shut up Lopez before the end of the show. But no, but honestly, dude, I think and the only reason why I'm saying that is because I think that's I would have wanted that maybe that Raw and SmackDown instead too. But at the same time, Chicago's such a passionate city. You could have sold out Raw and SmackDown, but in a way, it's about time for Chicago to have a takeover. Chicago, you guys deserve it up there. That crowd, and especially, with All In coming in the fall and with everything else. I mean, Chicago's starting to become just. Not that it hasn't always been, but you're starting to see how important Chicago is to just the wrestling business as a whole. So I actually think that it's nice that they're doing this because now they, like you said, they're starting to show the importance of Money in the Bank and why it is in the top 5. I would actually replace Survivor Series. Now, I think we're kind of it's fair to say maybe it's replaced Survivor Series in a top 4. But yeah, so I'm actually looking at it I'm looking glass half full, sir. But then again, it's not my city, so I don't want to. We're getting Extreme Rules only, so listen, I would take an extra show period. It's not like we're getting Raw and SmackDown after Extreme Rules. Shut up, Lopez.
Shut up, Lopez. May I should bring up another character from the prequels of Star Wars?
Oh God,
Qui-Gon. Oh God. I'll say this though. Revenge of the Sith, the third one, is still it's up there with my Star Wars movies. If I was ranking up there, like the whole transformation of Darth Vader in that particular movie. I'm not talking about Attack of Clones or the movie before that. I'm speaking specifically of the third one. This is transformation and that ending scene when he actually put the full suit on. I thought that was cool. And you gotta remember, I was still in elementary school when this movie came out.
Okay, so real quick. If we're getting some Star Wars talking real quick, so this, and I guess we'll bounce it back over to wrestling. But just again, because moments in time, a lot of times just they tell a different story, and that's why it is important to pick the brains of elders and people younger than you, because it's about a moment in time, dude. Yeah. I'll never forget being in the movie theater when he went no, and the whole movie theater went what, and it was just one of those so now let's fast forward a couple months to whenever it hit DVD, right?
Right.
Came out and going over and CDs, DVDs always came out the same day. I was working somewhere, went across the street to pick up some CDs, and there was dudes in Best Buy, and this is when Best Buys were really popular, and that's a very old statement in itself.
How about Blockbuster?
Yeah, right. But the only Blockbuster left in the United States is up in Anchorage, Alaska, and right now it's holding Russell Crowe's jockstrap. Thank you, John Oliver. If you guys haven't seen that, please look into that story. But anyway, what I was saying about the whole thing with when episode 3 came out on DVD, I swear to you, I walked into a Best Buy, there was like 8 associates just standing all around the surround sound stuff, and they're just replaying the no over and over and over, and they're all just like in tears dying. It was the day that that it came out on DVD. It was right around the holidays or whatever and stuff, and it was one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. Just that many people laughing at one of what should be one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history.
It was like one of the biggest things when I was little, because all the promotion for the movie, they were like making like brands out of the Burger King and McDonald's promoting the movie and this and that. Like, I was super pumped. I'm trying to remember which year that movie came out. Number 3.
Oh, that probably would have been. Let me see. So 99 was episode 1. So
right.
What, 2005 maybe that came out. I want to say. Does that sound right?
I was in 5th grade. Yeah, 11. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2004, 2005. I don't know. I was in my mid-20s and was battling alcoholism. I don't know. This is probably why I have liver problems. I don't know.
Battling alcohol and laughing at no.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Shut up, Lopez.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not getting any more Star Wars talk. No. No, not doing it.
No, delete.
Yeah, I'm not taking the clickbait, Lopez.
All right, let's move on. Before we head out here, I wanted you to get your opportunity to talk about Gotham tonight because some big stuff going down tonight on Fox.
Gotham. Listen, let me. And you know what? First thing I want to do is I'm usually not big on like reaction videos or anything like that. But there's actually I've been watching a gentleman over in the UK. He's actually had some pretty cool stuff. If you get a chance, if you're either a music fan, he does a lot of music, Linkin Park, stuff like that. That's how I kind of like stumbled upon some of his stuff. But he's been doing a lot of Gotham reaction videos. His name's DC Cookster Reacts on YouTube. Look him up. He's actually got some really, really cool stuff going on there. Seems like a really, really genuine guy. So, but here's the deal with Gotham. And you know what, guys? I'm typically good about not giving spoilers, but we're on what almost was the series finale, but it thankfully got renewed for 13 episodes. We talked about it last week, Josh, to hit that. You know, they were that close to hitting the 100 episode mark. So they're going to get the 101. That'll put Gotham in syndication. This is just personal opinion. I like the fact that it's only going to be a 13 episode season. They've been doing 22 episode seasons, but I feel like we know that these 13 episodes are going to carry so much weight and so much substance and so much. They're going to pack so much into them, and they are doing a time jump. So if anybody wants to avoid spoiler alerts or spoilers, I would probably not listen for maybe the next 2 to 5 minutes. But if you missed it last week, the episode was called One Bad Day. Listen, I just, not for nothing, I know I don't really usually go that too into detail, but there's a gentleman named Sean Pertwee that's playing Alfred Pennyworth. And at one point, I mean, if you guys have seen The Killing Joke and you know everything about The Killing Joke and how Batman is being tortured, of images of Commissioner Gordon being tortured, and you know, they do a similar premise, but it's Bruce is seeing, Bruce is the one going through the maze, young Bruce Wayne, and he's seeing Alfred being tortured. And then he actually gets hit with Scarecrow's toxin, and he sees Alfred slicing his mouth open like Joker, like the Ledger Joker. And it was hard. It was hard to watch. It was chilling. This was, hands down in for me, and this is obviously easy to figure out why, but this has been my easily my most satisfying episode of Gotham that they've ever had. All the nods to The Killing Joke, down to the fact where there is no Barbara Gordon in this because everybody is so young still. I mean, there isn't even a Batman yet. But Jeremiah, which is Joker, they're just not allowed to use the Joker name. Jeremiah, this time he actually shoots Selena Kyle. And what looks to be he might paralyze her, but right out of The Killing Joke and right at the end, it was a way to cliffhanger the ending. But fortunately, because everyone's, the show has been so good, the plot's been so good, and I do believe that Cameron Monaghan might have single-handedly saved this show. They're thankfully going into next season. Now, tonight's episode is called No Man's Land. If you're familiar with the No Man's Land storyline, Gotham goes bye-bye. Gotham gets blown up. And I don't know how true to the No Man's Land arc they're going to stay, or because in the No Man's Land arc, I believe the United States government has to come in and not only evacuate, but kind of blow up Gotham in its own way and kind of hit the refresh button to try and salvage what was, and that's a way that they rebooted one of the universes. Right now it looks like it's Joker and Ra's al Ghul, Jeremiah and Ra's al Ghul. They're the ones that are behind this. But so it looks like, guys, we're about to see I expect a couple deaths tonight. Expect the city to blow up. I mean, it's going to be a very dark, gritty. I can't stress enough, especially with only 13 episodes left, and just the acting and how it's improved. And I totally get it, guys. The first maybe half of the first season for me, it was a little bit tougher to watch, but just because it wasn't clicking with me. But right now, I think they're really on point with what they're doing. And since it is the finale, I do want to read one thing, Josh, because this ties into wrestling. Cameron Monaghan that's been playing Jerome / Jeremiah / really what is the Joker. for the past 4 seasons rather, into the 5th season. He addressed the fact that they're not allowed to use the Joker name and they're not allowed to use green hair, and how people were complaining about it. And I don't know, Josh, what does that sound like, other than wrestling fans maybe? But he put a really good statement out, and I went the crux of it, and I'm just going to take a couple little excerpts from it. But the crux of it is, why are we complaining about something that you obviously know? You know that he's playing Joker. We know that the transformation of Jerome to Jeremiah was really the transformation from Jerome to Joker. And they're just not allowed to use the name Joker. That's reserved for the movies, the cinematic universe. And Joker having green hair, ironically, is reserved for the cinematic universe. And, Cameron Monaghan just put a statement out, and he said, ultimately the film character is extremely lucrative in merchandising. I don't think it's cynical to say companies will always be protective of their revenue streams and bottom lines. I see no point in being resentful of that. You must understand how deeply grateful I am that I've been able to touch the character at all and in some way have a thumbprint on the mythos. Not just once, but 2 different interpretations over a course of 16 one-hour episodes. That's simply badass and a lifelong dream of mine. I mean, Cameron Monaghan's a guy that it has been a dream of his to play Joker in some form. So, I mean, this is a kid that's living out his, one of his dreams. And he continues, and I hope to continue to have a thumbprint with his character and other comic book characters I love, perhaps eventually in other mediums as well. And this may be a pipe dream, but I'd eventually love to be involved behind the camera as well with adapting them to screen. I've always had a love for Jay, meaning Joker, but it's only strengthened and developed over these past years. There is a deep well of stories to pull from, and a character deserves to be represented for many years to come in many forms of media. This is my Hamlet. Great actors have performed him, and it has enriched my life to be able to interpret him in any form. Also, while we might not be able to use his name, I also don't agree in giving a definitive statement that any of the characters we've seen hinted on the show are definitely not Joker. I think the whole fun with the character is you, the audience member, get to pick the backstory you think works for him. It should be ambiguous, or, as Joker himself famously put it, multiple choice, because he did say in The Killing Joke, if I'm forced to have a past, I'd prefer it to be multiple choice. And then he concludes, perhaps Jeremiah one day falls into a vat of acid. Perhaps the hinted clone from the 2nd season, a John Doe without memories of his own, sees the Valeska brothers, these guys with the same face, and take inspiration. Perhaps a comedian or a kid inspired by him. It's convoluted, it's fantastical, and it's a little silly. Isn't that who the clown prince should be? You, dear viewer, decide. And Josh, I've always said that my favorite Joker has always been the one that's about to come next. The Joker is almost more powerful when he's off screen, that anticipation of what is he going to do next, than sometimes when you're actually seeing it played out in front of you. We talked about it real quick before we went on. Listen, the Dark Knight's still hands down my favorite comic movie ever, but I'll admit that it's been diluted a little bit because of everybody's fascination and lust over that one particular incarnation of Joker. And I'm not saying that it wasn't brilliant, and I'm not saying that it wasn't, doesn't have its own leg to stand on, but I'm a fan of the unpredictability of the Joker, and I'm a fan of the fact that if you truly understand the Joker character, you truly understand that your favorite Joker is within yourself. So I guess that's how we'll wrap that up today on my end. Watch Gotham.
What type of people could watch that tonight?
That's 8 on the East Coast. It's 8 p.m. Here in the United States. I think it airs on Tuesdays in the UK. I'm not really sure on Monday or Tuesday. I think there's a tape delay. But it starts at 8 p.m. It's on from 8 to 9. I DVR that too, guys. It's not just a wrestling thing. I don't like commercials. But definitely tune in tonight. I'll be watching it tonight. So guys, if you have me on social media, reach out. This is one that I really want to talk about, because Cameron Monaghan, in my opinion, has really encompassed everything, especially this new the Jeremiah Joker that he's doing is just I can't say enough of how chilling and how excited and just it's just great to see somebody who not only has such a love and appreciation for the character when they take that character over. I mean, But the reason why I wanted to read that, guys, is we complain so much about everything. And I think I detailed a lot of stuff today. Hell, I always talk about that album Tool, or that album Lateralis by Tool. I mentioned it last week. That had its 17th anniversary this week. It came out May 15th, 2001. You know, there's a lot of stuff that go on in everyday life that this is why I don't sit here and just complain in land-based wrestling all the time, why I look for the positives, why I like to talk about what I enjoy in wrestling, and why if it's anything cynical or I have a criticism, I make a joke about it, because there's all this other beautiful stuff in life. And what Cameron Monaghan's saying is, why be cynical because we can't call him Joker? You know he's Joker. You know he is the Joker. So it's why can't we just accept that sometimes business is business, you know? And I know we don't like this saying, but sometimes they have to do what's best for business.
Yes, sir. One thing on the entertainment tip I wanted to bring up, go check out Deadpool 2 this weekend if you're a big movie buff. I love the first one. Sequels could have their peaks and valleys, but from what I saw from Ryan Reynolds, I'm not one of those guys that look too deep into like trailers and stuff and like different TV spots on YouTube. Like I watch the one movie trailer, then I just want to watch the movie for what it is. Then I go give my thoughts after it. It's also kind of thing with like, I'm not a Rotten Tomatoes. As far as I'm concerned, I look at Rotten Tomatoes the same way I look at the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Right. Neither of them mean absolute shit to me at the end of the day. So
it's our opinion.
Yeah, go check out Deadpool 2. Next week, we'll probably have more time to talk about All In and stuff. We'll get more of a general conversation about the importance of it next week. But it's kind of cool. I agree with what you're saying there with Gotham. One of my favorite parts about like with comics and just like general entertainment in general, my favorite part of it is like when you know all hell's going to break loose, but you don't know what's going to happen when the hell starts breaking loose. And I think that's going to be the cool part about tonight's episode. So check out Gotham.
And it really is, Josh. I think people are going to be stunned tonight. I think that's, if you don't know the, you know, and listen, Gotham's good about always putting its own little touch on it. So it's not exactly going to be no man's land, but I don't know, man. I think that in a world where we always have to have, where people complain, you have to have the happy ending, send the fans home happy. We need to feel those range of emotions. That's why we go to entertainment. You know, we go to be excited, to be scared, to cry, to be emotional, to laugh, to you know, whatever the case may be. And I do think tonight's episode is going to be jaw dropping in so many different ways. So, yeah, guys, if there's one thing you could do for all of us, check that out.
And I was looking at this like from wrestling shows. You'll have podcasts that say, "Oh, there's not enough answers to the storylines going on right now." That's the point. You got another month left of television before the next pay-per-view. That's the point of the next week's show.
That show Lost was on TV for like I don't know how long, and I still don't even know what the hell it was about. I didn't watch it that much. All I know is a plane crashed and then there was some dark smoke, and like I tried to get into a couple times and I was just like, I don't know. Like but it is very pro wrestling, isn't it? Yeah. Like you really have to, unless you're dived in. Like it's sometimes, Josh, we go through. I feel like as wrestling fans, not you or I, or maybe not you, but sometimes you or I. But I think all of us. I think it's fair to say that because we drink it in, man. We take in as much wrestling as we can. Yeah. We forget that it is storytelling, and we are going to sometimes see stuff that is resembling or is, you know, and we just have to learn how to look at it through a different lens to make it exciting to us if it's something that it feels like we've seen it before.
I want to thank you guys so much for letting us take the time to talk a little bit about the mental health stuff. I got a little clip I'm going to share at the end of this week's podcast. Trailer for Mauro Ranallo's documentary that's coming out at the end of this month. I'm going to play that trailer for you guys at the end of this week's podcast. We went really deep today, and I'm glad we had this conversation. It's kind of cool to get that off our shoulders and provide something for you guys to think about as we go forward. And it's cool when we could we weren't fully wrestling heavy, and it's not even saying that this week of television was bad, because I'm not saying that, but I just feel like there's over minutia of breaking down every show from its purest form of why is this happening, why is that not happening, right. and I'm just kind of over it, to be honest with you guys. I don't feel the need to talk about Roman Reigns every week. I'm a fan of the guy. Get over it. I don't need to explain myself every single week about this topic. So,
well, plus, you know what, Josh? To piggyback off that too, I think this is a good way to show, you know, like, because there are a lot of people that don't realize, like, real life actually sometimes gets in the way, you know. And again, it's nothing. To be honest, it's nothing WWE did Monday night. I wasn't focusing on that, you know, because I heard the news about my cousin. I got the news sent to me around like maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock. One of my buddies actually sent me something over. And I wouldn't have really found out probably until, you know, maybe the next day or the day after, just because of how, you know, I'm kind of my Italian side of the family is all kind of dispersed. None of us really kind of talk. We're all disconnected a little bit. And you know, I was just out of it, man. I was just mentally out of it. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, sometimes they're mentally out of it and they go to watch Raw, and because they're already in a bad mood, then they take it out on Raw. Well, Raw didn't. I was in a bad mood and Raw couldn't get me out of it. Well, Raw's not always going to be able to get you out of it. You know what I mean? Sometimes just real life is gonna weigh heavy on even the strongest shoulders. And you know, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And I think that, you know, for this, Josh, I think it was good to, number one, for Mental Health Awareness Month, it's always good to talk about mental health. It's good to talk about mental health 365 days a year, but it's absolutely good to talk about it during Mental Health Month. And, you know, I think this is just a good reflection on listen, when real life happens, man, it's not WWE's fault, you know. My mind was just on overload, and CM Punk could have came back this week, or Chris Jericho could have came in and be feuding not only with Naito but also be feuding with AJ Styles or something, you know. I mean, it wouldn't have it honestly wouldn't have mattered what happened this week. I mean, you could have had Curtis Axel come back as the new Mr. Perfect, as you know what I mean, and nothing I don't think would have brought me into, like, you know, just where I was with Raw Monday night, because there was so much personally that was going on, and you know, so that's why, Josh, I think it's important sometimes to kind of break. Why I'm glad, you know, it was your idea to do this, and I want to give you credit for this, because I think all of us every once in a while it's okay to watch a wrestling show from afar every once in a while. We don't necessarily always have to be at the edge of our seats through the entire show. Sometimes it just needs that little distraction, you know? Yeah.
And you guys don't need to see us pontificate our thoughts about booking while the show's live on social media. There's already enough of that. So with that said, go ahead.
I was going to say, because then you're not even watching the show anyway. All you're doing is you're talking on social media. You're not watching the show.
But I'm smart. Not really. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for checking out episode 106 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back here next week. Talk a little bit about All In, and time's going by so fucking fast, man. Before you know, it's going to be Money in the Bank week. Yep. So, enjoy your wrestling this week. Go check out Deadpool. Go check out Gotham tonight. Hit us up on social media at Notorious Joshi and Adam Daley 13, the Clown Prince. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to AJ. Shout out to the good brother B-Rob. Shout out to brother Carter. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to everybody who supports our podcast. We love you guys.
The Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, the Walls of Jericho.
There was a storm. There was a destructive storm. I told him, stop then drop by the Walls of Jericho. Be easy on him, cuz.
Oh, man. This is a couple of business stuff I want to get before we get out of here. Bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. I have a new feature where I kind of talk about topics that I don't talk about on this show from a written form. I tried it out. It's called Sound Off. It's on my website, ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. You want to get my thoughts on the Roman Reigns stuff, go check out there. I went more detail on it on the website this week. And then I think I have some New Japan articles that might be coming your way. They have that Wrestling Done Talk. They have Dominion. That's the show. It's going to be June 9th. So that's a pay-per-view coming up. And then, of course, you can see all my articles for Raw, SmackDown, and all the gazillion hours of wrestling that's going on. And thank God Lucha Underground's coming back soon, because I love that show. So with that said, we got some cool wrestling content for you guys as always. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.
I was on medication, and I was
a mentally ill patient in a psychiatric ward.
I was able to discover at a very young age that my voice was an instrument.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Warren.
He was just a natural.
Of the RBC Cup.
So much energy. I said, dude, you have a talent.
I'm going to make it. I'm going to become a major star. And then the biggest battle of my life began. I was sick. I was really sick.
We call it bipolar disorder, but it really describes two phenomena. One is depressive episodes and what we call manic episodes.
He'd have these breakdowns, rage, just the brain chemicals. We didn't know anything about it.
Seeing someone with a mental disorder like that just melt down, you just go, wow.
I'm a fucking prisoner of my own fucking mind.
Hey, Mom, biggest show of my career. Thanks for your love and support.
Good luck, Claudio.
Floyd Mayweather landing the right hand now at will and tags McGregor again.
I want to kick the living crap out of this.
Oh, God.
What's up?
Mental illness may be a life sentence for a lot of us, but it does not have to be a death sentence.
Keep fighting the good fight.